Imagine Hogwarts without Alan Rickman as Snape. Hard to picture, right? Well, HBO has already done it. Paapa Essiedu has been cast, but fans aren't happy. So the big question is, can they replace him again? Hit that like button and subscribe. Let's break it down. Why Snape matters so much. Let's be real. When people talk about Harry Potter, Snape is one of the first names that comes up, right alongside Harry, Hermione, Dumbledore, and Voldemort. And that's not by accident. Snape isn't just a character you pass by in the corridors of Hogwarts. He's the character who embodies the mystery, the duality, and the emotional punch of the whole story. Alan Rickman understood that from day one. He didn't just act Snape, he defined Snape. And I don't mean that lightly. Think about this. J.K. Rowling personally told Rickman Snape's ending before anyone else knew it. She trusted him to carry that weight through the films. Every glare, every pause, every venom-soaked word. It was all delivered with the knowledge of the tragedy to come. That's why his performance feels layered, even in the earliest movies. Rickman gave us a Snape who wasn't simply the mean teacher, he was Shakespearean. He was operatic. He was tragic before we even knew why. His pacing, his voice, that infamous drawl, it turned lines that might have been throwaway into cultural touchstones. I mean, just say the word Potter in his tone and everyone knows exactly what you mean. This is why the shadow is so heavy. Because for a lot of fans, Alan Rickman and Severus Snape are the same person. They've fused together in cultural memory, which makes recasting not just a challenge, but an almost sacrilegious act. It's like saying, hey, we're going to remake The Godfather, but don't worry, we've found someone else to play Vito Corleone. You're instantly fighting uphill against nostalgia, reverence, and pure cinematic history. Now let's add another layer. HBO isn't just rebooting Harry Potter. They're pitching this as the definitive adaptation, a chance to tell the story closer to the books, with all the details the film skipped. And on paper, that's exciting. More character development, more world building, more subtle arcs. But for Snape, that actually makes things harder. Because if you're going deeper, the actor has to carry more. He's got to be cold and cruel, yes, but also subtle, witty, fragile, and, eventually, heartbreaking. So the question isn't just, can anyone replace Alan Rickman? It's, can anyone live up to Alan Rickman and add something new without getting destroyed by fan expectations? And that, my friends, is why the shadow of Rickman isn't just a shadow. It's a storm cloud that follows this series wherever it goes. The Recasting Challenges. Okay, so let's talk about the actual minefield of recasting Snape. This isn't like replacing an actor mid-season on a sitcom. This is one of the most recognizable performances in modern cinema. So, what's the first problem? Any actor stepping into Snape's boots is stuck between two equally deadly choices. Option 1. Imitate Alan Rickman. Do the drawl, the posture, the mannerisms. And sure, the audience might go, oh hey, that feels familiar. But then it quickly becomes an impression, a pale copy. And suddenly, you're not an actor. You're a YouTube parody. Option 2. Go in a totally different direction. Reinvent Snape from scratch. Maybe make him colder, maybe more fiery, maybe lean more into the bitterness than the tragedy. And at first, fans will hate it, because it won't feel like the Snape they know. They'll cry blasphemy, and the internet will explode with side-by-side comparison clips. So the actor is stuck in a lose-lose. Too close, and you're a clone. Too far, and you're a betrayal. Welcome to the cursed classroom of recasting Severus Snape. Now flip it to the fans. Think about how attached people are to this character. Snape isn't just a teacher. He's one of the core emotional arcs of the entire series. The betrayal, the redemption, the heartbreaking reveal of his love for Lily. It's all etched in people's hearts. And when you mess with something that personal, fans get defensive. They want their Snape back. They don't want to relearn how to feel about him. This is why Paapa Essiedu's casting has sparked so much backlash already. Not because he's untalented, he's not, but because fans weren't ready. They weren't primed for change. And let's not forget, Harry Potter fandom has already been bruised by controversies. From the Fantastic Beasts films to broader issues with the franchise, people are quick to pounce on any move they don't like. Recasting Snape? It's like throwing gasoline on a fire that's already smoldering. We've seen this movie before, literally. Think about the Joker. Jack Nicholson was untouchable, right? Then came Heath Ledger, and people were furious at first. Fast forward, and Ledger's Joker is now considered legendary. Then came Jared Leto, and fans hated it. Then Joaquin Phoenix, and he won an Oscar. Same character, 4 wildly different receptions. That's the danger with Snape. One wrong casting move and you're Jared Leto's Joker, mocked, memed, rejected. One bold right move and you might pull off a Heath Ledger moment. But that gamble is terrifying. Here's the final kicker. Snape in the books isn't exactly the same as Rickman's Snape. Book Snape is described as thinner, greasier, more physically unpleasant. Rickman gave him a gravitas that went beyond the page. So does HBO cast closer to the book or closer to the Rickman performance? Both roads have pitfalls. Book purists will cheer one, film loyalists will scream at the other. So yeah, this isn't just a casting decision, it's a generational hand grenade. Whoever plays Snape is going to be haunted by the ghost of Hogwarts. And whether it's Paapa Essiedu or someone else, the challenge is the same. You're not just playing Snape. You're fighting Alan Rickman's ghost every time you step on screen. Paapa Essiedu, the cast choice that shook fans. Alright, so now we get to the heart of it, the actual casting. HBO made their move. They gave the role of Severus Snape to Paapa Essiedu. And the internet reaction? Let's just say it wasn't quiet. Paapa is not some random unknown plucked from obscurity. He's an accomplished actor with serious credentials, trained at RADA, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, same place that produced some of the UK's greatest actors. He's done Shakespeare. He's worked in TV dramas like I May Destroy You, where his performance was widely praised. He's got range, he's got stage presence, he's got the chops. So from a purely talent perspective, there's no question this guy can act. But talent is only half the battle here. The other half is perception, and that's where things start to wobble. When fans first heard Paapa was cast as Snape, the reaction wasn't, "Oh wow, perfect choice." It was, "Wait, him?" And that pause matters. Fans didn't feel the Snape energy. They didn't see the icy menace, the brooding shadow, the gothic weight that Rickman embodied. Now, is that fair? Not really. Nobody has seen Paapa in costume, in makeup, delivering Snape's lines. For all we know, he could transform completely. But fandom isn't rational, it's emotional. And once the emotional reaction sets in, it's hard to claw it back. Another problem? Timing. Fans already entered this reboot suspicious. The idea of remaking Harry Potter is divisive. Add in the fact that Snape is sacred territory, and then announce an actor most fans don't personally associate with that role? Boom, instant backlash. And the backlash has been loud. Social media threads, comment sections, even fan petitions calling for recasts. Some are criticizing the choice, others are saying HBO should have gone with someone more obvious. And here's the dangerous part. Once the conversation shifts to recasting Paapa, that seed doesn't go away. Even if he nails the performance, some fans will never give him a fair shot because they've already made up their minds. This leaves HBO in a tricky spot. Do they double down and defend their choice, banking on Paapa winning fans over in the long run? Or do they listen to the noise and make a pivot before filming begins? Because yes, Hollywood has swapped actors last minute before. It's rare, but not impossible. And honestly, this is where the replacement conversation heats up. Because if fans don't believe in Paapa now, who would they accept? That brings us to the next chapter. Before we jump into my dream recast list, I want to hear from you. Do you think Paapa Essiedu deserves a fair chance, Or should HBO start fresh with someone else? Let me know down in the comments. I'm curious where you stand on this one. Who could replace him? Okay, let's play the dangerous but irresistible game. If HBO did decide to replace Paapa Essiedu as Snape, who could possibly step in? This is fantasy casting at its finest, and its most controversial. Because every name you throw out has pros and cons. And the reality is, none of them can ever fully escape Alan Rickman's shadow. But some might be able to walk in it without getting crushed. 1. Adam Driver. Let's start with the obvious one. Driver has that raw intensity. Tall, brooding, awkwardly magnetic. You can practically imagine him sweeping into a dungeon classroom, cape swishing behind him, snarling at first years. He's proven he can balance menace with vulnerability. His Kylo Ren arc is basically proof that he can play a tortured anti-hero. The catch? He's already heavily associated with Star Wars. Some fans might not be able to see past that. And his energy is a bit different. Less calculated silk, more explosive storm. His Snape might feel angrier, less controlled. Could that work? Maybe. Could it feel off? Also, maybe. 2. Benedict Cumberbatch. Now this one gets interesting. Cumberbatch practically lives in roles that demand icy intellect and sharp delivery. Sherlock, Doctor Strange, even his turn as Smaug in The Hobbit. He has that same deep, cutting presence Rickman had. He could slide into the robes and feel instantly believable. But here's the downside. He might be too obvious, too fan-cast. It risks coming across as HBO playing it safe, giving fans exactly what they expect rather than challenging them. Plus, he's already tied to Marvel and other franchises. Would people accept him as another iconic character? 3. Tom Hardy. This would be a wild card. Hardy is unpredictable, physical, and charismatic in a way that's hard to pin down. He could bring a completely different edge to Snape. One that's more dangerous, more volatile. You'd never know what he's going to do next. But the problem is, that's not really Snape. Snape is icy, restrained, meticulous. Hardy tends to play characters who burst out rather than hold in. His version might feel more like a rogue Death Eater than the cold, calculating double agent we know. Still, if HBO wanted to shock people, Hardy would be the nuclear option. 4. James McAvoy. Now here's a more subtle choice. McAvoy has range for days. He can be tender, he can be terrifying, and he can shift between the two on a dime. Just look at Split. He could bring out Snape's tragedy in a more human way, maybe giving us more emotional layers earlier in the story. The risk? He might soften Snape too much. Fans expect a certain sharpness, a certain hostility. If McAvoy leans too heavily on vulnerability, it could undermine the character's menace. But if balanced right, he could offer a new interpretation that's faithful and fresh. 5. A complete unknown. This might actually be the smartest move. Bring in someone nobody has baggage with. Someone who isn't that guy from Sherlock or that guy from Star Wars. With a fresh face, fans wouldn't have preconceived notions. The actor could grow into the role across seasons and, if they're talented enough, redefine Snape for a new generation. Of course, that's also the riskiest move. Because unknowns don't have a built-in fan base. They don't come with instant credibility. It would be a gamble. But maybe that's exactly what HBO needs. At the end of the day, though, let's be honest. This is an impossible wish list. No one will ever satisfy everyone. Alan Rickman's shadow is too long and fandom expectations are too intense. Whoever plays Snape, whether it's Paapa Essiedu, one of these big names, or an unknown, they're going to get roasted at first. The real question is whether they can survive long enough to prove themselves. Do we even need a new Snape? Here's the thing nobody talks about enough. Maybe the whole issue isn't about replacing Alan Rickman, or even Paapa Essiedu. Maybe the real question is, does the story itself demand a new take on Snape? Think about it. The Harry Potter movies we grew up with gave us a Snape who was iconic, but not complete. The films had 2, sometimes 3 hours to cram in entire novels. That meant Snape's story, like a lot of characters, got streamlined. We got the big highlights: the bullying of Harry, the sharp tongue, the moments of surprising loyalty, the heartbreaking revelation at the end. But we didn't get the daily grind of Snape. We didn't get the slow, simmering build of his character in all its messy, uncomfortable detail. The HBO series changes that. A show has time. 7 books stretched into 7 seasons means more classroom scenes, more interactions, more chances to show Snape not just as that one tragic professor, but as a complicated human being with layers. For example, the books make it clear how much Snape loved teaching potions, but also how bitter he was about not getting the defense against the dark arts job. That frustration leaks into every class he teaches. We'll probably see more of that pettiness, more of his professional jealousy, and more of the everyday cruelty that makes students hate him. And honestly, that's a side the films didn't emphasize as much because Rickman's performance gave Snape an aura of dignity that often overshadowed the pettiness. There's also Snape's history. A series can show us more flashbacks, not just the handful we got in Deathly Hallows. We could see young Snape's relationship with Lily, his rivalry with James, his decision to join Voldemort, and the bitter regret that followed. In other words, a deeper, slower burn toward the man we meet at Hogwarts. And here's where it gets interesting. A new actor has the chance to lean into those layers in ways Rickman didn't. Not because Rickman couldn't, but because the films didn't give him the space. A series could make Snape more pathetic at times, more sympathetic at others, and more terrifying in key moments. So maybe the point isn't to replace Rickman at all. Maybe the point is to reinterpret Snape through the book's lens rather than the film's memory. That doesn't mean fans won't compare, because of course they will. But it does mean the series has an opportunity to justify a new Snape by saying, look, this is Snape as Rowling originally wrote him, in all his raw detail. Rickman's Snape was unforgettable, but ours is different because the format is different. If HBO leans into that, then yes, the story demands a new Snape. Not to erase Rickman, but to expand him. Fan acceptance and the future. Now let's talk about the million-dollar question. Fan acceptance. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how talented Paapa Essiedu is, or how faithful HBO is to the books, or how much nuance they add to Snape's backstory. If fans don't buy in, the whole thing collapses. So, what's the outlook here? Make no mistake, it's already happening. Fans are posting "Not My Snape" memes, venting on forums, and debating endlessly on social media. The initial wave of negativity is unavoidable. Honestly, even if HBO had somehow resurrected Alan Rickman himself, there would still be complaints. That's just how fandoms work with beloved characters. Here's the silver lining, though. Fandoms have short memories when something works. We've seen it time and time again. Daniel Craig was mocked when he was announced as James Bond. Too blonde, too soft. Then Casino Royale hit, and suddenly, he was one of the best Bonds ever. Heath Ledger? People lost their minds when he was cast as the Joker. The guy from 10 Things I Hate About You? Are you kidding? Then The Dark Knight dropped, and now his Joker is legendary. So yeah, there will be backlash. But give fans a few episodes, a few seasons, and if Paapa, or any replacement, delivers, the tune will change. People will start saying, okay, he's not Rickman, but he's still amazing in his own way. That's the long game HBO is betting on. But here's why it matters so much. Snape isn't a background character you can quietly miscast and hope nobody notices. He's central to the entire emotional payoff of the story. The final reveal, always, only works if audiences have invested in this version of Snape for years. If they don't buy him from Season 1, the big payoff in Season 7 is dead on arrival. So HBO doesn't just need a good Snape, they need a great Snape. They need an actor who can survive the initial storm, hold the role across multiple seasons, and slowly win people over until they're emotionally crushed when his story ends. That's not just casting. That's a multi-year unbreakable vow. Finally, there's the legacy issue. If this works, if Paapa or whoever ends up playing Snape nails it, then the HBO series will carve out its own place in Harry Potter history. We'll talk about Rickman's Snape and Essiedu's Snape the same way we talk about different Jokers or different Bonds. Both valid, both iconic in their own way. But if it fails, if the performance never lands, if fans never warm to him, if the internet never stops complaining, then the HBO series risks becoming the show that tried and failed to replace Alan Rickman. And that would haunt the whole reboot, no matter how good the rest of it is. So yeah, the stakes are massive. Recasting Snape isn't just a casting choice. It's the single biggest gamble of the entire reboot. And whether fans eventually accept it or not will decide if this series has a future beyond nostalgia, or if it collapses under the weight of its own ambition. So, do you think HBO can pull it off? Will Paapa Essiedu win fans over with time? Or is Alan Rickman just too irreplaceable? And if they did replace Paapa, who would you pick as Snape? Drop your thoughts below. I want to see your dream casting ideas. And hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We've got plenty more Harry Potter deep dives coming your way. Peace.